I'm Alejandra. I'm part of the solutions consulting team on Supplyframe. But for the demo portion of today, I'm going to take the role of a design engineer going through a new product introduction process where I'm going to be analyzing the risk in our bill of material to avoid disruptions further downstream. So this is a problem we see very commonly with our customers and any company that has electronic components in their products. All right, so I'll let Ryan introduce himself and his role in the demo today.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Ryan Chan, and I work with Ale on the solutions consulting team. I get to play the sourcing guy. After the engineer makes all her mistakes, I get to fix it. So from a supply chain perspective, I'll be looking at things like lead times, costs, availability, and all the things that could potentially introduce a problem after the design before it hits manufacturing. So we'll play a little game handing off the design back and forth between us. And hopefully you'll get a chance to see how Supplyframe can help businesses drive these decisions a lot faster with a lot more resilience and certainty, and hopefully mitigate a lot of the risk downstream that a lot of companies are facing today.
So as a design engineer, I'm typically working on my BOM, right, my engineering bill of material in our product lifecycle management system. Let's say I'm using Team Center, right, since we're a part of Siemens. So the bill of material has been brought into Supplyframe for analysis, right? The way I would typically go about this, if I didn't have a solution like this, I'd be looking at the websites of different suppliers and distributors. I'd be reaching out directly to my suppliers to understand the overall level of risk of the components in my bill of material. It could be hundreds, thousands of parts. So that can take weeks, days to really move on the bill of material to the next stage in NPI. But with the Supplyframe Design-to-Source intelligence platform, you'll see that I'm going to refresh this bill of material and start getting all the latest intelligence related to these parts. So that intelligence is something Supplyframe provides from hundreds of different sources. So thinking about parametric data, life cycle information, market information like cost and lead time, you see how it's being instantly refreshed here. So within seconds, I can now have the latest information in my bill of material, and I can start identifying what I need to focus on and take action. All right, so now that the bill of material has been refreshed, we have the latest risk information, and I can even see across my entire BOM what are all the items that are obsolete, for example, where before this was something that we usually found out too late in the process. So now I can take action on those obsolete and not recommended components. I can also take into account many other parameters related to risk. So a lot of companies look only at lifecycle for risk management. Here we're looking at many different parameters, and I can now understand what are all those items that are considered high risk in my BOM. So we're using this kind of as a traffic light method. So I can see, okay, instead of going one by one, I now have a list of high risk items. I can see what's driving the high risk here. So we have many different parameters like stock, country of origin. But in this case, this item is obsolete, so it's overriding everything in my risk index. So obsolete parts are really the most critical challenge we face, right? So I want to take action on that immediately. And what I can do is basically understand all the different suggestions that Supplyframe recommends. So we have form, fit, function equivalence, and we can see some intelligence related to the component itself that we'll go into more detail soon. All right, we can see some of the details related to what kind of component are we thinking of here. We have the overall inventory in the channel, all the compliance data related to that component. So I know what type of a part am I dealing with that I have to go and replace to find an active component, right, that we can replace the obsolete part with. So Supplyframe would also recommend those potential replacements. So that's what I'm going to look at now is we actually have 19 form, fit, function equivalents that we can pick from to replace that original obsolete part. So you can see who the different manufacturers are that provide that. I can understand the overall risk level. I see there's a lot of green options here, which makes me happy as an engineer. Now, we also can understand if this part has been used before in our organization. So typically I'm working within my program, my BOM. I don't know what other components are available, but I see that these parts are actually already pre-approved by other groups in my company. All right, so they're already in the part master considered as approved alternates. So that's great for me. I can start leveraging those preferred parts that others have used. And I could even compare that original part number I had that was obsolete to this new replacement. So this is a lower risk part. I'm going to compare them side by side now. And as an engineer, I really want to make sure all the technical specifications are the same. So that's my starting point, right? I'm comparing them and seeing that the parametric data is similar, but the new option is even better because it's RoHS compliant. That's something we're paying very close attention to in our processes. So all the parametric data is very similar. I'm comparing that, making sure it's a good fit, and highlighting only the differences between them. We see that another key difference is the years to end of life. So if I'm dealing with longer product life cycles, I really want to focus on how much longer do we have before this component becomes unavailable or obsolete. All right, many companies will have different parameters and thresholds when looking at that. All right, so I think I'm happy with this potential alternate. I'm going to add it into my bill of material for analysis now. And I can compare now the two components side by side. So the original obsolete part, I now have this new, much better option. And I can see all the intelligence related to it being surfaced immediately by Supplyframe's data network. So now we see that, there's a preferred supplier that's been selected to provide that part. So we worked with Farnell very closely, their preferred distributor, and we see that their lead time is available as well. I can understand what the overall cost of the component is, but this is something that my colleague Ryan can do a much better job in understanding is what's the supply chain risk of this part? Is it something that we are comfortable in approving and incorporating into this BOM or not? All right, so now we have the much lower risk index. We started with 100. We're now at 24, so it's much lower risk. We can see all the different factors that are driving that. The only potential worrying item here is the lead time. That's 27 weeks. But if Ryan takes a look at it and he feels comfortable with it or he finds a better alternative, then that keeps the process going and we can quickly find another solution for that. I think Ryan will be happy as well about some of the trends we see here as part of this risk index. We have the price history. So price has gone down by 20% for this component, and it's gone up in terms of inventory by 34%. So these are all different data sets that Supplyframe provides and surfaces in one place for these companies to have all the information at their fingertips when making these decisions. So I think I'm ready at this point to pass this on to Ryan, and I can do that within the portal as well. So we have the comment functionality here that instead of me having to pick up the phone or walk over to Ryan's desk, I can just send him a message, and he'll see the notification on his side. He'll receive an alert, and as soon as he logs into Supplyframe, he'll be able to take action on this. All right, so I'm asking him to review the alternative for supply chain risk, and we can pass it on to Ryan next.
And so my goal here is to show you, hey, I just received this message from Ale. I have the same BOM now, so we're all using exactly the same platform in different roles, playing a different part in this whole decision-making process. So now I've gone into the same BOM, I've received the message, and now I'm looking at it through my supply chain lens to say, 27 weeks, yes, it's high because we set that measure as a general rule to say anything above 25 weeks, I want to be alerted. But I know as a supply chain person that I have enough inventory in stock to cover any lead time type of issues. And so I'm okay there. The second thing that I saw here is that country of origin is Taiwan. I prefer in general to near source the parts that I have, but in this case, this item is produced in Taiwan, which is okay. It's one of the acceptable lists, right? So that's okay as well. So I'm happy with that. But the things that I'm most excited about, as Ali pointed out, is not only am I looking at the current price and the current stock levels of the market, but I also have a sense of where it's going or where it's coming from. And so by diving into, this is what we call the part intelligence tab. It gives us everything there is to know technically and from a supply chain perspective. So you can see here, from a price perspective, since a couple of years ago, it's been declining pretty steadily, right? It's almost at 1/3 of the cost since the beginning, since the COVID days. So I'm very happy about that, and this gives me a good reason to go negotiate for this part. Inventory-wise, we saw a small spike, but then looks like the market leveled out. Nothing that causes me a lot of worry because my consumption of this part is not huge, right? So I'm not consuming millions of that. So going back to the BOM itself, one of the things I want to understand next is what is the total amount of inventory? So this WP channel stock really allows us to aggregate inventory from all the suppliers that we're connected to give me a sense of if I were to get an extra large order, how much inventory can I access immediately versus having to place an order with the manufacturer. So that's a good thing to know. And then the next thing I want to understand is the pricing. By default, this part we're looking at an average market price of about $293, but I want to see what other options are out there and what is a good price versus something that is a little bit too high. That's the real transaction level data that Supplyframe regularly aggregates and provides in real time. So now this gives me a list of all the suppliers, how much inventory they have, in what form, what are the quantities and prices, and we can sort by the price to immediately find the lowest price. However, I also have some favorite distributors that I already have relationships with and contracts with, so I prefer to work with those distributors first. In this case, Arrow is offering this part at $1.49, which is fantastic. They also have enough inventory in the US for me to consume. However, the thing that I don't like are these MOQs. They're a little bit higher than what I need, but that's okay. I can put that in inventory at this price. It's not going to really cause me any pain, so I can live with that. And I can also see 20 weeks of lead time is a little bit better than the 27 weeks that we're looking at with the original part, which is an improvement for us, right? That allows me to hold slightly less inventory and be a little bit more nimble with this particular part. Other things, that I might be looking at are package types, right? Depending on my production capabilities or how much I need, those things are what I would pay attention to. And so at this point, we also want to now take a look at, if I were to pick that supplier, Arrow, where do I end up on the price curve, right? So this is great. Now I know that I'm $1 cheaper than where I was, and I have a good lead time. There's enough inventory to cover me, and that's a pretty good choice in my mind. I've gone from a completely red light to this is a little bit more of a green light. And we have a couple of risks that are known to me, and they don't really concern me very much. And so I'm going to now reply back to Ale and tell her that this is my decision, and we think this is a good replacement for the original part. Okay? So while this is finishing up, one of the things that I might want to just, as a regular best practice, take a look at the overall picture, right? A lot of times we're focusing on one part at a time, and because my time is spent on doing a lot of research online, searching supplier websites, maybe even calling people and getting quotes and so forth. Now I have more time to take a look at the bigger picture. When the system gives me everything I need, I know automatically what am I spending money on. So on this BOM, most of the cost is going to connectors. It's a very connected BOM. 70% we're spending on this thing. And I also have a view of the future, right? So not only do I know the trends of what's happening in each category, but the rest section on the right allows me to also have some idea of where things are going based on our forecasts, so that we know that lead time is staying level, demand's picking up for certain things, and when prices change, I have not just a rearward looking indicator, but I also can look at the future. I can also see from a supplier perspective, am I putting my eggs in one basket, or am I spreading my risk out a little bit, right? To give you a sense of how I'm spending my money. Manufacturers the same way. And for, my BOM, I also worry about what countries am I getting this from, right? There's a lot of geopolitical changes. And when I created this risk index, we're okay to source from China. Nowadays, maybe I'm going to have a mandate to put China on the high risk list. And so that allows me to also very quickly change how I view risk as a company as well. A couple of last things. We also can take a look at lead time. You're only as good as the part that has the longest lead time from a production perspective. So being able to visualize where the whole BOM is from a lead time perspective is helpful. And then also, as an overall, we have some AI-based analysis that tells me about all the commodities that are important to me and what I should be looking out for. So it's not just staring at a bunch of numbers, but we also have some qualitative analysis that helps me do my job a little bit better. And then finally, we can take a look at the combined costs that we can predict based on how we've priced out this whole BOM, and different scenarios. We can create different versions. Will give you a sense of kind of a trade-off between risk and costs, right? So that's super helpful. So at this point, what this allows us to do, we're able to now go back into Team Center, engage in some engineering change orders, and be able to lock them in. I'll go source new part. and we're going to have a more resilient BOM at the end of the day.